Good morning. For the record, my name is Tanya Fernandez Anderson, the District 7 City Councilor. I am the chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Ways and Means. This hearing is being recorded. It is being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-TV and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and FiOS Channel 964. The Council's budget review process will encompass a series of public hearings beginning in April and running through June. We strongly encourage residents to take a moment to engage in this process by giving public testimony for the record. You can do this in several ways. Attend one of our hearings and give public testimony. We will take public testimony at the end of each departmental hearing and also at a hearing dedicated to public testimony. The full hearing schedule is on our website at boston.gov/budget. Our scheduled hearing dedicated to public testimony is Wednesday, May 17th at 6 p.m. You can give testimony in person in the chamber or virtually via Zoom. For in-person testimony, please come to the chamber and sign up on the sheet near the entrance. For virtual testimony, you can sign up using our online form or on our council budget review website or by emailing the committee at ccc.wm@boston.gov. When you are called to testify, please state your name and affiliation or residence and limit your comments to a few minutes to ensure that all comments and concerns can be heard. Email your written testimony to the committee at ccc.wm@boston.gov. Submit a 2-minute video of your testimony through the form on our website. For more information on the City Council budget process and how to testify, please visit the City Council's budget website at boston.gov/council-budget. Today's hearing is on dockets 0760 to 0762, orders for the FY24 operating budget, including annual appropriations for departmental operations for the school department and for the post-employment benefits OPEB. Dockets 0763, 0765 to 0766, orders for capital fund transfer appropriations. Dockets 0764, 0767 to 0768, orders for the capital budget, including loan orders and lease purchase agreements. Our focus area for this hearing will be an overview of the FY24 budget for the Boston Fire Department with a focus on fire prevention and fire operations. Our panelists for today's hearing are Paul Burke, Fire Commissioner and Chief of Boston Fire Department. Boston, Robert Calabrese, thank you. Chief of Field Services. Rodney Marshall, Chief of Support Services. Michael Gaskins, Fire Department Diversity Officer. I am joined today by my colleagues. In the order of arrival, Councilor Aaron Murphy, Councilor President Ed Flynn, Councilor Liz Braden. For our format for this hearing, I will go to the administration first, to my council colleagues for an opening statement, then to administration for a presentation. Then we'll go to round 1 of questioning. If there are any public testimony, we'll take them at that time, and then to a second public testimony, and if time allows, a third, with closing statements. Without further ado, Councilor Murphy, you have the floor. 30 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Looking forward to the conversation. Thank you for all you do for the city, and it's important to make sure that we fund you properly. Hoping after you present, and the questions I hope to get from this hearing are around what seems to be a substantial decrease in the personnel budget and how we're going to address that. The cadet program, also the contract, where we are, how far out, maybe that can come up here. Also happy that, the Seaport Firehouse is there. I just want to shout that out now. And also residency issues going forward. So looking forward to the conversation, and thank you for being here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Council President Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the panel and to the Commissioner for being here. Had an opportunity to talk to our colleague, Councilor Flaherty, as well this morning about some of these issues. I know he is not feeling well, but both of us wanted to highlight several issues that I'll ask later. Car 5, what is the status of Car 5? Want to make sure that our Boston Fire personnel working in and around Mass and Cass at the headquarters are protected, feel safe. Council Murphy mentioned the Seaport Firehouse, but also staffing and specialty units, support units, minimum staffing of technical rescue, hazmat, special operation units, single engine companies, all critical. Council Flaherty is also working on chiropractor services, making sure that it's available to the men and women at the fire department. Deputy Chief of Prevention, Patrick Ellis, has also been doing a lot of work on life safety, occupancy, assembly permits. But there's a lot of issues I would like to focus on, but I do know we have the best fire department in the country. We have the best fire department in the country because we have the best men and women that are firemen and firefighters, and I'm proud to work with you. Madam Chair, thank you for giving me an extra minute.
Thank you, Councilor President Flynn. Councilor Braden.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for being here this morning. I have a few particular questions, but I really look forward to the conversation this morning and hearing what we're working on and what your vision is going forward in terms of this year's budget. So I look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Braden. I'll go to the administration for your presentation. You are not presenting on a screen today? You don't need?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, and no materials to pass out to us?
No, we don't have anything.
Okay,
Yeah,
no problem.
we didn't make any copies.
Just figuring out. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, thank you for having us. Councilor Murphy, Flynn, Braden, thank you also. I'd just like to quickly list the 5 major accomplishments from FY23. Last year, we completed the construction of new Engine 42 Rescue 2. We broke ground and began construction on new Engine 17 and Ladder 7 in Dorchester. We recruited and hired 32 fire cadets. They began working on April 24th. We completed the conversion of all frontline apparatus to a manufacturer Emergency One. We expanded our drone program. It's fully staffed 24/7, and we've provided CPR training for all civilians at headquarters. Our new initiatives for FY24 are to reinstate District 5, which is a chief's vehicle that covers Roxbury, Mission Hill, Fenway, Longwood medical area. This initiative will focus on the much-needed resources into this highly dense, rapidly growing and critical area of the city. It will require the creation of 8 positions, 4 district chiefs and their aides. That's a cost of $1.3 million. We would also like to build another new initiative for the new year would be to build a firehouse in the Seaport District. This district has grown in both square footage and office space, along with residential and lab space. And we would like to move the Marine unit to a new firehouse over there. The Seaport Firehouse would be an ideal location for that Marine unit, as the lease on the current location is running out. We'd like to purchase some robotic technology to assist with search and rescue at hazardous environments such as collapse and chemical spills. And we'd like to replace the Marine unit fleet, including the SDMREL and Norman Knight and the Captain John Kent. Ongoing initiatives we'd like to continue for FY24 is to expand the active shooter hostile event multi-agency training, which includes frontline companies working in conjunction with Boston EMS and Boston Police. We'd like to add new cadets in the new fiscal year, 32 new cadets as we have now. We'd like to continue industrial cleaning, painting, and renovation of existing firehouses, excuse me, to improve the safety and health and wellness of firefighters and to preserve and prolong the useful life of these structures. And one of the most important things is we'd like to identify a new location for our Special Operations Command. The fire department has been evicted from our current location for the Special Operations Command in Brighton. Harvard University owned the property, and they gave us till July 1st to move out. We have yet to secure a new location for this. We're working with facilities with the city, and we have not come up with a new facility. We have 2 months to go, so we're under the gun on that. That's it for right now.
Thank you. I had our budget analyst break down, do a presentation just so that we can understand the numbers. And so I will go through it quickly, and for those watching at home, it's available via email if you send me a request. But we'll just start. So the fire department. Oh, okay. So here in the table of contents, I have to read from here because I could barely see, and I apologize. Do you all have a copy at this time?
We do.
Okay.
I believe we do. Yeah.
Excellent. Of this presentation?
I don't know if we have this presentation. We do have a budget.
Okay, it's on its way for you. We don't have to wait. So for the table of contents, just a little background. FY24 recommended amount being requested versus FY23 spending. The second part or third part, FY24 recommended by expense type and program increases and decreases. Historical spending FY21 onwards by expense type and program. Capital budget, capital projects, programmatic breakdowns from programs listed in the raw data provided here. And by here, you have to click on it, and obviously not the hard copy. Also available by request for those of you at home. Background and definition, specific categories where money is directed. Basically, personnel is a cost associated with the people within that department. 5 main line items: personnel, supplies, materials, contractor services, current charges, and equipment. I won't go into much detail because the commissioner has already explained a little bit about that. Council President, we need money for our...
Yeah.
Add it into the budget.
Okay, all right.
Not our budget, Councilor. No, yours.
Okay, here we go. And this would be the org chart for the fire department. First, of course, the lead is the fire commissioner, and then the chief of operations support services, deputy commissioner, labor relations, and of course, deputy commissioner, administrative and finance. And I'm going to try to go as fast as possible through this. So here you have FY24 recommended versus FY23 spending personnel, and the FY24 being in the red and the red colored, and FY24 recommended internal and external, and then spending and encumbered FY23 in blue. And you can see the comparisons there. Again, I won't read out every single detail, but you should be able to have an outline breakdown in the next slide. So here is the BFD FY24 departmental and external funds versus FY23 spending personnel. Again, outlined by different department. And here is the recommended versus FY23 spending for communications, utilities, snow removal, garbage waste removal, repairs, and so on. And again, you can see the comparison in colors, 23 in green and 24 recommended in red. and then the outline. And for my council colleagues, you should have already received a copy of this. If you don't have it, please let me know. And then this slide explains spending by supplies and material, and outlined. And typically, we would show sort of the comparison in numbers. And apparently, this presentation doesn't give it to you, but I'm happy to send that to you again, anyone who's interested. So let's get more to the pie chart, and we'll close it there. So in terms of the BFD recommended by program, here you see that the larger amount, of course, is the Boston fire suppression, and then next, which takes up 75.5%, and the administration, 7.1% at 19 million. And so fire alarm, 5.4% at 14 million. Fire prevention at 5% at 13 million. Maintenance at 4.9% at 13 million. And training, 2.1% at almost 6 million. Recommended by expense for FY24, personnel obviously taking up 89.9% at $249,808,801. And then contractual being the next one, supplies and materials, equipment, current charges and obligations, and then other. And so the breakdown goes on to more granular level in breaking down these numbers and comparisons. And again, I will not take the time to break that down here, but if we like to refer back, it's available. I'm happy to go back to this. Thank you for indulging me in that very exciting presentation. I'll open up the floor first to my colleagues for questioning, and then I will ask my questions. Councillor Murphy, you have the floor.
Well, thank you. Are you concerned that there is a decrease in the personnel budget? Have you seen that?
Yes, I'm concerned about it. I haven't seen the decrease, a number on it. I don't have it in front of me. I don't know what that
I mean,
figure
I
is.
think what I saw was like almost $500,000 in a decrease in the personnel budget.
Yeah, that's going to be tough to do, especially with the new cadet program. You know.
Is that coming directly out of the personnel budget allocation, or is that a separate fund?
I believe it's coming from the operating budget.
You're saying,
Yeah.
okay. And you mentioned the cadet program. Are you hoping to get around 32 each year?
Yes. So we did
Yeah.
32 this fiscal year, FY23. We want to do 32 in FY24 and continue every year to do 32.
And how many of those cadets will be selected to have access to the academy? Do we know yet? Or what our plan is on that?
Yeah, the commissioner has the ability to appoint up to a third per class. So it depends on the size of the class. But if we have a good applicant pool, we have the ability to impact each class moving forward for the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, so around 11 or 12 from each cadet program could be selected?
I would say closer to maybe the number 15 to 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And then on the residency, is there a push? I know that, I'm a strong supporter of the residency program and making sure that city jobs are going to city kids. I know that we do have concerns around some departments with the low wages, the high cost of living, and there's the lack of a pool of people to interview. But I feel like the fire department, you're in a very different position, right? You have waiting lists of people trying to get in. You also have good wages. So are you going to stay strong, do you think, with your Boston residency expectations?
Yes, I think we're very fortunate as if you compared us to the police. My statement to everybody that wants to know is there's thousands of people applying to be firefighters every 2 years. They take the exam. The police aren't so fortunate. So our job is very desirable.
Yeah.
And residency is part of the job. It's part of the application process. The mandatory residency once they're hired for 10 years. So it's a big deal. It goes to city residents.
Okay, thank you. And I'll look into that staffing more closely to make sure as we go forward in this budget how to support and make sure that we're advocating to get it back in if we can. So thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor President Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, I know in your opening comment you highlighted CAR 5. Can you give us a quick update on that?
We have not been allocated the money to reinstate that district. The district is, like I said in my opening statement, is very densely populated with hospitals, schools, laboratories, and a chief officer, in my opinion, and I think everybody here shares that, is very important at an incident. The initial firefighters will be there within 4 minutes because that's our response time within the city. We have the best response time of any public safety agency. But they go inside the building. The chief is outside. He sums it up, what's going on, asks for more resources. It's an important role. Currently, that guy is not there, that man or woman is not there for a long time because he has to come from another part of the city. And I'm hoping nothing happens. I'm hoping the city council agrees with us that it's an important position.
Thank you, Commissioner. I know we do agree with you. I know this was a priority for a lot of us. Council Flaherty kind of took the lead, but I know it's a priority for us. Commissioner, let me go on to Mass and Cass, the headquarters at the fire department. In my opinion, you know, I love the fire department. I think the building itself is an embarrassment. The outside of the building, how it's falling down. Many of you knew my uncle Dennis that worked over in the maintenance department. Unsafe, really, over in that area. But the people that do work there, what are we doing to make sure that they are safe, they are healthy, they're working in an environment that's healthy for them and their family?
Well, there's many things. Recently, the best move that happened, I don't know if you can say we were involved in it, was moving the people that live out in the street to the side street, Atkinson Street. When they were on the main street, it seemed to be more violent towards us. They were throwing rocks through the window. There were a lot of needles on the ground. I had to put a fence up in front of our whole property. Since they moved, they only come up once a day when they clean that area. So it seems a little safer. I took down the big fence I had encompassing the whole front of the building, and I had 2 gates installed so they can't get in the parking lot. Those are closed at 5 o'clock and locked every night. But you know, I think it's improved since they moved around the corner. The city's been helpful. They agreed to move the crowd around the corner. The violence towards us has slowed down a lot, so we're moving in the right direction, I think, with this. I agree with you, and I knew your uncle. He did a great job maintaining the buildings. The building is pretty run down. It would be a great place for another city facility if we ever got lucky enough to get a new one somewhere else in the city. It would be fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with the Commissioner. I think
And one effect of the neighborhood is our employment. The civilians do not want to work there. They're not highly paid, so they should get combat pay for coming in every day, and they pay them very low. So it's very difficult to fill vacant positions because of that location where the headquarters is.
Thank you, Commissioner. We certainly this city deserves a state-of-the-art fire headquarters. I know you support that. We talked briefly about the potential for fire presence in the South Boston waterfront. Thank you for your leadership and advocacy. Thank you for the fire department. Thank you for the men and women of the fire department for never stop advocating for that as well, including members of members of Local 718 as well. Commissioner, we talked about minimum staffing levels at specialty support unit, technical rescue, hazmat, special operation units, minimum staffing, including single engine companies as well. Where are we on that, Commissioner?
Well, we provide it, but now it's provided with overtime because the staffing levels are low. So we would have to pay, it would be better to hire permanent employees than pay overtime. So it'd be great if we could get a bigger drill class. I was shooting for 65 new members, but I got 45. If we can continue to support a bigger drill class each time we get the opportunity to hire, it would be fantastic. But other than that, it has to go to overtime because the city has minimum staffing on fire trucks, and it affects our insurance rating, the whole city's insurance rating. So we have to stay at a certain level, and to do that, we hire overtime now to keep the staffing at that level.
Commissioner, we have more labs in Boston than New York City does. Mm-hmm. New York City Fire Department has more inspectors than we do in Boston. I know that's a priority for all of us, getting inspectors, but can you talk a little about what impact this potentially could have, not staying on top of this, not having enough inspectors, but it's critical that we do everything we can to fund more inspectors.
I added 2 more people to the unit. There was a captain by himself, so I added a lieutenant and a firefighter to the lab inspection unit. That is not enough staffing to look at all the labs. The labs are such a complicated thing. Every lab is producing a different product. Could be hazardous, maybe it's not hazardous. The city, certain contractors want to put residential attached to the labs, which I don't agree with because we don't know what's going on in these labs. But the labs they're growing with the real estate market and the businesses working from home. A lot of these vacant buildings are becoming laboratories for the universities and the hospitals. So I think it's key that we at least double or triple the staff at the labs department in the fire prevention.
I agree. I have Fortune 500 companies calling me up. They want to go to the South Boston waterfront, and they say to me, Council President Flynn, why do you talk about inspectors? Are you saying you don't have enough inspectors on the fire department for these labs? And I say, yes, we don't have enough inspectors. We have a neighborhood without adequate city services, police, fire, EMS. We're getting a firehouse there. We're going to get an EMS presence there. But we need the inspectors. This area contributes greatly to our economy, as you know, the regional economy. But we need inspectors hired so we can deal with the life science issue. It plays a critical role in the New England economy. Finally, just want to say thank you, Commissioner, to you and to your team for your professionalism. Also want to say thank you to the men and women of the fire department for always being there for the residents of Boston as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We always appreciate the support of the City Council. It's a great body, and they've always backed us, and that doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Braden, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. The hazmat facility, I know we've been talking about this for years. We knew this day was coming when we were going to be asked to go. They need to demolish the building because it's a critical piece of another development project.
Yeah.
They're going to put a road through
You couldn't get
there.
us another extension? Come on, we only had 3 of them.
I've managed to get you a few years on
Yeah,
it.
you did a good job. Thank you. But I don't think they'll hear another
No, I think
request.
the project that has been approved, 176
Yeah.
Lincoln has been approved. So part of that project is to connect, I think it's Telford, the whole way from Lincoln down to the Western Ave. So it goes right through that building. It's going to have to come down. It's very
Brighton,
sad.
I'm concerned Brighton's not going to be as protected with fire services as they once were. That's very important for the council that represents Brighton.
I know,
also.
I agree, and
Yeah.
what I'm making for, I know Councillor Flynn and Councillor Flaherty have been making a pitch for a new firehouse in the seaport for years now, and anticipating and knowing what's coming and what's already happened. Like, if in District 9 alone, like our we have an 80,000 population, and we have millions of square feet of new lab space being built, and I'm really going to put it on the agenda that we need to be thinking about. We did the Western Ave corridor study. It's all about labs and increased density in residential. And but to service all this new development, we're going to need EMS and we're going to need fire. And so I'd put down a marker and say, let's be planning for a new firehouse north of the Pike that's going to serve Western Ave corridor, Leo Birmingham across into Beacon Yards, because getting across from Union Square, that's the nearest firehouse, and we're otherwise there's nowhere else because we're bordering Newton, Watertown, and Cambridge, and I know there's an emergency situation where you can get help from a neighbouring municipality, but we're on our own really.
And think of rush hour for the other Boston fire apparatus to get to Brighton in rush hour. It's almost impossible. And
the access across the Everett Street Bridge, is very narrow, and with all this new development, it's going to be really difficult to get into North Brighton, North Alston, in an emergency. So I would really put down a marker and say, yes, we need to be doing this and making a plan to. We're doing a neighbourhood needs assessment, and I think thinking about emergency services infrastructure is going to have to be an important piece of that conversation. So, I'm here to partner with you folks.
Yes.
I want you to put your thinking hats on and come forward with some proposals for us that we can really advocate for.
I agree. That big landlord over there that has that endowment that could buy and sell this whole city should pony up some finances for this. They really should. Who are we protecting other than the citizens of Brighton and Alston? Harvard University and their laboratories and all their classrooms on the Boston side. They should have some say in financing this. They should be a public-private partnership for a firehouse. They should have a role in this. I don't know how they've got away this far without helping with the city services, the public safety agencies. That's key to any growth. Why do they get a pass with the kind of income that they pull in their endowment with the billions of dollars? I don't know who's in charge of the planning for, I don't know if it's the city or if it's Harvard just saying, oh, they didn't mention it. Well, don't bring it up. We'll save money on it. But this is terrible that they can build and build and build and take residences away, and they don't provide any infrastructure like public safety. This should not be allowed.
So the other issue is that our EMS station over there is going to be moved because they're going to develop. It's a Harvard-owned site as well. They're going to be moved in the near future. They have a temporary place for them, but one scenario that I could think about would be an emergency services centre that would co-locate EMS and fire department together. I don't know if that's politically okay, but I really see that might be a solution that we should be thinking about.
Yeah, that would work for us. I mean, we work in tandem. We run together. Like I said earlier, I'm not trying to say anything bad about other agencies, but we have the best response of any public safety agency in the city. So we get there, EMS is summoned at the same time, and they show up. They have their calls that tend to be longer because they have to go to the hospital, they have to clean out that ambulance, but we're right back in service. We go right back to quarters, we're ready to go. So I'd love to share
your emergency response time saves lives. Like I know that. I've seen it in reality in Brighton. There was the fire in Perthshire a few years ago. The ladder from Oak Square was there within minutes, and they were picking people off a porch roof.
Excellent.
And one young person died.
I remember,
but they were literally going up a ladder. They just took a regular ladder up and carried somebody off the roof. And they save lives, so it's very, very important. The other issue, I know Madam Chair's watching the time here, we talked a little about e-bikes and e-scooters and the charging. It is a hazard. Are we working with the BPDA to sort of institute some in new builds to sort of have some requirements to try and make that as safe as possible? And then what are we doing to educate the public about in older facilities and charging just regular folks plugging in their scooter or their e-bike in their garage or whatever?
That I don't have any information on. That's fire prevention. I failed to ask them about that, but they're on top of that. We're training all the time on extinguishing these vehicles. We had one catch fire on Boylston Street the other day, and we had to leave an engine there the whole time because these batteries blow up and keep on burning.
going.
So, yeah, so I think I told you before that our concern is when they tow this thing, they tow a car that was burning, then the battery, another cell blows up.
Yeah.
Then it goes into a tow yard in Brighton or somewhere,
Yeah.
and then blows
All
up.
these
Nobody's
gasoline
looking
tanks.
at it, and we have a fire of the whole tow yard. So it's a dangerous situation that we're looking at it. Every fire department is. The National Fire Prevention Association in Quincy, who sets the standards, they're writing a standard on the appropriate ways to fight fires when it comes to the electric vehicles. And I'm sure they'll incorporate storage of them and what to do with them.
Yeah.
So,
Now, the other question I have, and I ask this question every year because one of my constituents asks me, did we ever get the emergency generator at Chestnut Hill?
oh my God, I can't believe you asked me that and I didn't come prepared. I know it was ordered. I think the supply chain had it backed up.
Yeah.
Let me make a call and I'll find out.
Because,
before
you know,
today's
when
out.
the lights go out, and they do go out over there,
They do.
this constituent walks down to the firehouse and sees if the lights are on, and then she says, how, and then the fire staff have to crank the door open.
Yeah.
because
That's
you
on
can't-
Chestnut Hill Ave, I believe.
Chestnut Hill Ave,
Yeah, the
yes.
other two, I think, have it.
So my predecessor managed to get this wonderful emergency generator, but it's never been hooked up, and
Yes,
they were
correct.
going on a
That's
long
correct.
time.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll check in. I apologize. I should have known.
No, not to
before.
worry.
No, I'll get back to you on that one.
It's sort of a trivia question I asked every year.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It should be done. It should have been.
Yeah, it's
I
very
think we
important.
have, half of the firehouses do not have emergency generators. It's a big expense. I believe it's in this year's budget. I think it's $250,000 per firehouse.
Yeah.
And so if there's 33 firehouses and only half of them have it, we have quite an expense ahead of
We
us.
have one, but we technically don't have one if it's not hooked up.
Yeah,
so-
correct. You
yeah.
do have one. That's a
Yeah.
nice one, I heard.
Yeah,
It's not working.
Very good. So we'd really appreciate get that
I'll get back
sorted.
to you on that. I apologize.
Yeah. Madam Chair, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Braven. I'm not sure who on the panel can answer my questions, but I'll just go down my list and hopefully anyone who can answer can just feel free to turn on their mic. So the department spent 50%, about 50% of the indemnification budget in the amount of $1,766,254. Can you elaborate on the situations that this budget would be used for?
Chief Calabrese or Marshall? The identification I see here. If we spent 50% of it?
50.46.
46% that's spent. So I hate to do this to you, Counselor, but we lost our finance director 2 months ago, and she would have been better off answering this than us. We're not finance people. So I don't have an answer for you. I can get back to you on that.
Okay. Should I hold all my budget questions?
You can give us a shot, and we'll try the best we can with them.
So there's a recommendation for a budget of $80,000 for automotive equipment. No funds from this budget were used in FY23. Is there a persistent need for this line item?
Oh, there's a need, yeah. We replace 3 engines and 2 ladders every year, and we also replace about 10 cars. We have a fleet of approximately 300 cars, and they wear out, they have to be replaced, so we do that every year. I don't know why it's saying that we didn't use any of that, unless they came from another part of the budget, but no, we purchased cars, I know we did last year.
Okay. This comes from the raw data that we get from you,
Okay.
from your department. But I think perhaps sometimes things are not updated, but also from the city's budget book and the raw data.
Yeah, I think that's not accurate, to be honest with you.
Okay. Has the Boston Fire Department identified any areas of concern or critical needs that require additional funding?
Yeah, I have a list here. There's new firehouses that, I'm embarrassed that we work in these firehouses. Engine 18 in Dorchester was built in the 1800s, It's practically fallen down. It's in terrible condition. I would give anything to get that building replaced. I think the Dorchester community deserves a better firehouse than they have. We are replacing one in another section of Dorchester, but Engine 18 serves a very densely populated area at Ashmont Square, and the quarters there are just not adequate. Engine 37 over at on Huntington Ave, another older building, has to be early 1900s. That needs to be replaced. That one, I'm hoping for a public...
Do you know when's the last time it was?
What's that?
Do you know the last time it was repaired?
37? No, I don't know. It was probably renovated 30 years ago.
This is the one on Huntington, you said?
Yeah, it's in tough shape, and Wentworth is chopping at the bit to get the property. So we'd like to sell it to them and have them build us a new firehouse in a public-private partnership. That would be fantastic. It would be minimum cost to the city. It's just dealing with a university like that Harvard across the river there, they're not too open to giving money out, you know. But they want the property. They've approached us several times.
I think that's in District 7. Happy to, if I can help.
It is, yeah. Yeah, that would be great if we can get a meeting with Wentworth. Engine 3 in the south end, it was built in 1941. It's in tough shape. Obviously, as Councilor Flynn said, the Seaport District. We also had a meeting with the...
Sorry, South End where?
Engine 3, it's right behind the cathedral on Harrison Ave. His uncle worked there. It's a great firehouse. I was the captain there myself. It's a single engine with one specialty truck in it. And it's my belief, I think I've said this before, is there's a police station beside it, right? So there's a basketball court. Mm-hmm. So we leave them in that firehouse. We build a new firehouse on the basketball court, and then we tear down the firehouse and put the basketball court where the firehouse was. Because the firehouse is on a corner. It's tough to get the apparatus in and out with 5 intersections coming together. And it's a very needed firehouse because of the highway. And the other thing I always thought about was the cathedral's such a big building, it creates a wind tunnel. And if we ever put one of those windmills on the roof of it, because I used to have to change the flag every 2 or 3 months because the wind just tore the flags up on the roof, we could create energy for the police station and the firehouse there. And we look like stars with the environmental.
A windmill.
Yeah. That's just my belief.
Okay.
You know, it would be fantastic. Free electricity for 2 city buildings.
I like your thinking.
I don't think anybody can complain about that, really. But that's my thing. And the Charlestown, we had a planning board meeting, the chiefs and I, the other day. Charlestown has some serious development plans that if they do that it's going to increase the population over there.
What engine number is that?
That's engine 32. So because the fire department has mutual agreements with everybody, the Encore Hotel, we would go to that Encore Hotel even though it's in Everett. And it's just building up over there. They're going to take down the whole Rutherford. They're going to reduce the size of Bunker Hill Community College and build mixed laboratories and residential over there. So the population is going to increase over there. There's 2 firehouses. One has an engine and a ladder. The other one just has an engine. So they need help over there. These areas, like Councilor Breeden, there's isolated areas in the city, and Brighton and Allston is one of them. East Boston is another one. Charlestown is another one. South Boston is another one. They have 1 or 2 firehouses, but their help from other firehouses, it's not there. So they're on their own. Luckily, those members threw that ladder up and got the person off the roof. If they were busy and they had to come from Boston proper, if you will, to help, they'd be a long way off waiting for help. So it's ideal to have as many firehouses in a neighborhood, an isolated neighborhood. South Boston's a peninsula. You get in one way, you get out the other. Brighton, you have the highway. You can't get over there if you can't. So the help has to be there. So, I mean, I'm a big advocate for new firehouses. We need them. It's terrible the way it's going. But that's just me. I think
if you had to pick one, not South Boston because they're getting something.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick one, which one would be your top?
Would you want to replace one or a new one that's not existing?
No, if you had to fix something that's already broken.
Engine 18, Ashmont. It's a sad building.
That's your priority.
It's a big priority, yeah. I personally know members of that building. that have been stricken with cancer, and I don't know if it's from the building or not, but it's a terrible building. And it serves a great neighborhood that deserves a better building than that. They don't even have parking. They don't have room on the front of the building to pull the trucks out. They have to pull them across the street to check them every morning.
That's true.
And that's terrible. You can't even check.
I've seen that.
Yeah, see, and that's key. Every morning we have to check the fire trucks, make sure all the equipment works, because when an emergency comes, it's too late to check it then. So they have to drive across the street, throw the ladder up, spin it around, check all the tools, because there's no apron there for them to do it on the sidewalk. They have 20 feet maybe. A lot of trucks longer than that. The engine's longer. That firehouse is #1 priority, Engine 18 in Dorchester.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, was that it for the list? Was there?
I
What is
have-
this I keep hearing about Car 5? What is that?
What's that?
Why does Council Flaherty keep echoing Car 5
Because
over
he's
over?
he's very safety conscious in that area. It's a very...
Where's Car 5?
Oh, Car 5's Huntington Ave, the one I just talked to you about
Okay.
with Wentworth. So it used to be a chief in there, now there's no longer a chief, it's just an engine and a ladder. But that chief was the busiest chief in the whole city, and we shut him down. He was everywhere. And like I said, the hospitals, the schools over there, there's a lot going on in that area, and they have to wait. The closest chief is coming from Eggleston Square or downtown Columbus Ave.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Commissioner. Why is there $4,358,513 decrease in the administration's personnel service?
Decrease?
Yeah,
Because we don't have people, it's hard to staff. We can't get people to work for the Boston Fire Department. I think it's based on the salary level. So just to
so you don't pay
distinguish.
people enough?
Correct. So there's two staffings, one's civilian, one's uniform. Civilians do not want to come there. The money is not worth it.
What do you pay your secretaries?
The what?
What do you pay, like, your front desk people?
Maybe 40,000. They have to live in the city.
40,000?
Yeah. You might go as high as 60, maybe some cases 70, but not much higher than that. They have the residency rule. It's very expensive, as we know, to live in the city. The wages, I believe, have to be looked at from the city for all civilian employees.
$19 an hour?
Yeah, yeah.
That's depressing.
It is depressing. And there's nobody wants to work for that kind of money and then pay rent of $4,000 somewhere or try and buy a house for $1 million. You can't do it. The numbers don't add up. So we've been short-handed in every department for civilians.
It's very easy to talk to you.
It's what?
Very easy to talk to you.
It is. Thank you very much. It's easy to talk to you, too.
So, but then I can't get through all my questions because it's so comfortable here.
So you want me to stop talking?
No, I don't. I'm enjoying our conversation.
Okay, thank
But
you.
I'm also worried. I'm enjoying this conversation. I have to hurry up and get to my questions.
Okay. I'll try to be
But
quicker answers.
you have a very kind voice.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. The BFD maintenance program budget is made up of 30.3% contractual services, which is unique in comparison to other programs. Can you please list the contractual services involved in maintenance program?
The contractual services, we have an auto parts store, believe it or not, that is a contract.
What's an autopot?
What's that?
An autopot?
My accent, parts, P-A-R-T-S. Sorry for that Boston
No,
accent.
that's-
Councilor Flynn, can you help me out with that? So in our maintenance facility, we have a contracted auto parts department. And that's, I believe the contract is over $1 million a year. So when a truck breaks, they go into this auto parts department and get a new part and replace the part. So that's the contract. The maintenance people, again, Councilor Flynn's uncle was in charge of maintenance. There's a lot to keep these old buildings going. Like I said, half of them were built probably in the early 1900s, probably a quarter of them were built in the 1800s. So maintenance is a big expense. It's unbelievable what happens to these buildings. The doors break, the lights don't go on, I mean, the water leaks. that one I told you about in Ashmont, they had a saw line break over the stove when they were cooking from the upstairs bathroom, and raw sewage went all through the stove. I mean, come on, people don't live like this.
So they didn't eat that day?
They didn't. Well, they probably did takeout. They have an oil pit in the kitchen where it's just a big plate, a diamond plate, and it opens up. They must have dumped oil in it for the first 100 years that the firehouse was there when they changed the oil. So here's another thing with the firehouses. The firehouses that have kitchens on the first floor with the trucks, the condiment is diesel exhaust. That's what they put on every piece of food they eat. The diesel exhaust floats, the particles go in the food. It's unsanitary, it's not safe. Diesel particles are a carcinogen. They shouldn't be eating on the same floor with the trucks. But we have several firehouses with kitchens on the main floor.
What are we in, the 19th century?
Yeah. We should go back to horses. They'll be a little safer. They won't be eating the carcinogens.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have to be kind to my colleagues. I'll come back. I have other sheets and would love to ask you more questions. We've been joined by my council colleague, Councilor Baker and Councilor Lujan. Can you guys help me? Who was here first? Councilor Lujan? Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
Good morning.
Morning.
Madam Chair, and
Morning.
I agree, Commissioner, you have a wonderful voice. Nice to speak with you. Yeah, this issue of entry-level people making 40 grand, and Madam Chair, all the maintenance that you talk about, we go crazy talking about contracts that aren't going to communities that need help. We could, and we have the ability of the city to keep or build systems where those contracts are in-house and we employ our people into those jobs, which is what I've talked about my entire career, because I was 25 years in the printing department, 25 years in the, and I left making 50 grand at the printing department. I was a skilled tradesman, only making 50 grand for the city of Boston. But there's so much that we could do if we looked at getting rid of contracts. So my department, just to say, we're off the fire department for a little bit, but it has relevance. The fire department, the police department, they all have these huge contracts that years ago we said, we can't do that. Let's just, have outside people coming in. And there is some value in it, but there's also value in having your own person. The commission can say, hey, toilet's blocked down there. Can we get you guys out there and have it? Or I was going to just call it what we would call it in the trades, your main line. It's, if we have our own people, something to repair that on a Saturday night or something, you're talking 50 grand. Our own people would go in there on overtime. So I went off a little bit there. I agree that we need to look at those people that are working for us. They're not making enough. Can I ask you, what unions do you guys have with you under, like, your civilians? Who are they? Like, what, are they SEIU?
Yeah, CENA and AFSCME. But to take your point, I agree with you 100%. So I don't have a carpenter.
Yeah.
So there used to be a carpenter. So what do I do when I need somebody to fix a piece of wood or something's falling?
Yeah.
I got to sub that out.
I
don't have an HVAC person, right? I got heat in every firehouse, 33 firehouses, headquarters, and so I got to sub that out. So then, if I had an in-house person doing it, they would know this piece of equipment, and they'd know it intimately.
Yeah.
Now I got a different contractor every 2 years that goes, "No, what is this? No, we never worked on those." Yeah. And that's the case with electrical and everything else. We do have electricians, but it doesn't make
How many
any sense.
electricians do you have?
We have 4 of them.
Are those, they're not the fire alarm, that's
No,
separate from
they're
fire alarm guys?
No, they're separate. We had 2 for a while. I just hired 2 more because they were budgeted and nobody replaced them. So they do all the in-house electrical work. It's very rare that they have to sub out work because they do it. They know what they're doing.
Well,
they know the buildings. They've been to them a million times, so they know the circuits and everything else. It works well. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, the maintenance for the vehicles, that's in-house. But there's so many other things that happen in a building that needs to be replaced. It goes on and on. Why we're subbing? The contract it's a joke. You hire these people.
And
know-
we're a checkbook for them.
That's it. And they know the game better than anybody. It's amazing.
Yeah.
They know how the bureaucracy works better than we do when it comes to getting that
Yeah.
contract. When you violate it, they're suing you. It's a terrible situation.
Yeah,
You know,
Hence, we need to get back to doing our own work. We had advocated in the past for bringing kids out of Madison Park to work on your trucks. Your vehicles would help you
Yeah.
with contracts. We've been unable to pull it together. But I wanted to talk about, and sorry for coming late, and I wanted to talk about the cadet program a little bit. Would there be a possibility, would you guys be open to get the cadet program almost like, because nobody's really asking my opinion about cadets, and do you have anybody you'd like to put on? But I think that that these seats, these 9 district seats and 4 at-large seats, should have a say on, like we should have, just like they do, your congressperson has someone to be able to go into West Point or to Annapolis, something like that. I think the same should apply here with the fire cadet program. That's something I think maybe this body here might or should have a discussion on. Like, I know it'd be tough to. How did we come up with those classes?
well,
I'd
I'd like to introduce my diversity officer, Michael Gaskin, and I thought we stole him from the police department first off.
Did you already go through this, Michael?
No, sir, we didn't talk about the actual selection
So
process.
he can tell you the selection process.
Perfect.
And it's very fair. He did a great job. I'm very proud that he works for our department. So.
Excellent. But I still think that we should have appointees. We should at least,
Well,
a formal, this comes from the District 2 office, this comes from the District whatever office.
The thing is that they does come from every neighborhood in the city. So you represent every neighborhood, so there's people from every neighborhood. I'm correct in saying that.
Excellent.
Yeah, every year the class informs the next bit of outreach. I'll go on record with just respectfully disagreeing about appointees and things of that nature, but you can definitely encourage constituents from your communities to apply. We have a very fair and equitable process where we look to interview candidates. Those candidates' interviews are then reviewed by a committee of firefighters, including myself. I had the opportunity to interview every candidate. I applied the same process for our vetting process that I used for the past 5 years with BPD.
In their cadet program?
In their cadet program, yes, sir. From there, candidates are then given a fitness evaluation, and we're able to take all of the data, all of the information, reconvene and look at each candidate and provide a list of candidates to the commissioner, and the commissioner can appoint. I think it takes away nepotism, it takes away any issues around favoritism or issues around government officials influencing a process or favors. We're talking.
So you're out on that, okay. We respectfully disagree.
Absolutely, sir, absolutely. But however, if you refer somebody to us, again, it's not an appointee.
Yeah.
We guarantee an opportunity to be able to interview that candidate, whether or not family members aside. I'm not going to penalize a kid because they have a family member that's ascended to a city councilor seat or any other governmental official seat. We want to be able to vet the individual, determine their interest and their experience toward this position, toward this function, their potential to become a firefighter. What I'm trying to present to an academy and present to the commissioner at the end of our 2-year program, they could be there for a little bit longer, but after the 2 years, that they're the best trained, well-prepared, or best prepared recruits in the history of the department each year. So we'll continue to work with our community partnerships, community colleges, high schools. English High has a great legal and protective studies program where we look to them, almost a vocational kind of program, feeder.
So that program would be the pathway into the fire department?
One of the, absolutely.
One of the pathways.
Absolutely. Charlestown High also has a legal and protective studies program and track. And so we look to target those particular high schools, and then again, looking at other colleges and community colleges. With anyone has an interest in helping that wants to pursue this profession, we encourage them to apply over the course of their eligibility, 18 to 25 years of age.
Madam Chair, can I just finish up, please?
Of course.
A couple of questions. One is, so what is the likelihood of these young people that are in the cadet program that they're going to become firefighters?
So this is our inaugural year, so we don't have the data that would suggest that. If I'm using BPD's model in terms of where I had the opportunity to oversee that program from 2017 to 2022, we had about a 85% retention rate. So 85% of the cadets that were hired went on to become police officers.
So we should expect the same sort of numbers with your cadet, with the fire cadet program?
Absolutely. I'll put a marker down now to say we're going to have a better rate because we've improved upon the model by having mandatory evaluations as far as fitness and workouts. So we'll be working with them throughout their 2 years plus to make sure that they can handle the physical requirements of the academy.
How many BPS graduates do we have? And that's my last question. Do you know what you have?
I can look at each applicant and make a determination. The majority of the applicants that applied were BPS graduates. You need to have a minimum of 3 years within the city as far as residency goes. So we have a very high percentage of BPS graduates that are currently cadets. And again, each class will inform the next in terms of outreach and targeted outreach for underrepresented communities.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Councilor Lujan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to say thank you to the Commissioner and to senior staff for being here and participating in this hearing. I want to thank you for the incredible work you do every day on behalf of the residents of the City of Boston, as was evidenced just recently as yesterday in the tragic incident, but every day. I began my legal career, one of my earliest cases was working with the fire department after one of my clients was burned out of her home. And so have a tremendous just foundational appreciation for the work that you do. And want to go on record with my at-large city councilor, Michael Flaherty, in support of CAR 5. I know that we tried last year via the budget to support that. I had the pleasure of meeting the cadets at Town Field. The weeks are a blur, I believe.
Last week.
Today is Tuesday?
Last week.
Last week,
last
okay.
Friday.
Yeah, last Friday.
Chief Calabrese was there.
Yes. And it was wonderful. I met some of the other attorneys, some of the other firefighters, the elector who was also there. And so it was really great to see a young, hungry, diverse class of folks from the city of Boston who are going to be our future firefighters. And so I'm excited about that. Question about, and then last summer I had the opportunity of visiting White Stadium where there was the BFD Teen Academy, which was superb. And just thinking about, are there any formalized ways of the BFD Teen our young people who participate in the Teen Academy transitioning into full-time employment? Is there a formal preference? I think, Michael, you were there when, so thank you for all the work that you do, Michael. I know you do incredible work at pushing equity and diversity in the fire department and generally in our city, so I thank you. But if you wanted to respond to that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So our Teen Academy is definitely thought of as an applicant pool or a feeder for our cadet program.
And how long has it been running?
Teen Academy has been running since 2017.
Okay.
Any candidate that's a graduate of our Teen Academy is guaranteed an interview to become a cadet. If you apply and we can confirm that you were participated in the Teen Academy, we guarantee you an interview. Doesn't guarantee you the slot because hopefully you've applied what you've learned in the Teen Academy in terms of leadership and professional development and can apply that in a professional setting and take care of the details that we're asking of you. But they're guaranteed an interview. And again, our Teen Academy is kind of a microcosm of what our cadet program is, which is, again, good representation from across the city. So our hope is to be able to continue the Teen Academy in partnership with the Department of Youth Employment and Engagement and put out those feelers and plant seeds for folks that can then participate in the Teen Academy and hopefully become cadets. We have 2 graduates from our Teen Academy that were appointed as cadets. So we have 2 representatives from last year that are now cadets. So
great. So they would have done the full pipeline of the Teen Academy, of the cadet program, and firefighters. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
question regarding how does a cadet program, like, there's the civil service process, which is how folks traditionally get into the fire department, and there's a cadet program. Can you talk about how the cadet program interacts with the civil service process?
Yeah, so every cadet would need to pass a civil service test in order to be appointed to an academy class. After 2 years of working with the fire department, the commissioner has the ability to appoint cadets to that next academy class, provided they've met all the requirements, eligibility, including the passing of a civil service test.
And what influence, like what impact will the sort of the line of folks, the line of the applicants in the civil service process have on the folks who are in the cadet program?
If we plan it correctly, if the commissioner has the ability to appoint up to a third of a class, let's say we're budgeted for 60. So when the commissioner asks for 60 instead of 45, if we're budgeted for 60 and we have 20 cadets that are ready to go into an academy class, now we can make a call for the list for 40, and the commissioner can now appoint 20 cadets that are ready to go into that academy class. So we have a greater opportunity to have an impact on the applicant pool or the overall class and makeup. If we use our existing cadet class as an example, we have, out of 32, we have 9 women represented. We had 4 women graduate last year from an academy, and that was the first time since maybe 2004.
Yeah, and I think 3 of them were women of color, which was really...
So if we retain half of the women that were in the class now, in 2025, you can see that a greater impact can be made just by the commissioner having the ability to appoint. Now, provided we'll look at this in an equitable way where cadets can separate themselves based on their performance, based on how well they're doing in an academy or in the through the cadet program. But it's a tremendous opportunity for a commissioner to have an impact on an academy class.
Thank you, Michael. Can you talk about the discretion, if any, the HR department has in the state civil service hiring process?
We're bound by the civil service law in selection. So our discretion outside of, say, a tied group, the commissioner technically has the ability to select from that tied group. The practice of the department in the past has been a lottery where we literally put names into a turner and select those names. BPD does it a little bit differently in that the commissioner can select from that tied group. What that commissioner or the past commissioners would do when I was present would ask for recommendations. We'd give them an overview of one's profile and again maybe consider underrepresented communities, language skills, past public safety experience, things of that nature that might help to make those decisions. It's typically at the discretion of the commissioner for those tie non-selections. We don't know in terms of what, if anything, can be done in making that change, but that's been our practice in the past.
Great, and it sounds like the latter model is one that is more sort of with an angle towards equity or thinking about applicants more holistically.
I would say if there's an opportunity to build on skills within the department, language skills and language certifications are some things that we're able to petition the civil service. If I'm looking at a list and I see someone with a language skill, especially that represents a greater population within the city, Cape Verdean Creole, Haitian Creole. If I look at 911 calls and I look for translations and things of that nature, we're just building our ability set. And so that's another way where we can kind of address and grow as a department. Thank you.
Do you have a language preference, and is there a preference for BPS graduates?
There's no preference for language.
Although BPD has a preference,
so when you say preference, there's language certifications that you can request and petition civil service to grant you. It's not a guarantee, but they can approve of that. And so every time a department can ask for certain languages, you have to display data, provide data that would support that petition. And then you can hope for them granting that a certain number of people that speak a certain language, that are fluent in a certain language. So at BPD, we made those same petitions. In my tenure there, over 5 years, we were granted language certifications. Sometimes we were denied. So it all kind of depends. In my short tenure here, the last year, this year, we just made a call for the list, and we were also granted language preferences or language certification. So it's kind of looking at a certain number that you're able to hire based on what civil service provides you.
Great. I have one more question, Madam Chair. Is that okay?
It's okay.
Thank you. I think I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the language certification being able to help us diversify and get folks who speak the language of our residents. I think there's more work we can do there in terms of outreach to communities that traditionally are not underrepresented, like Asian community in our fire department. I think there's a lot of work that we can be doing there with different organizations. You know, we're talking about, it's AAPI month, and it's important for us to think about how our cultures are and aren't welcoming to folks from different groups and making them know that this is a profession that is available to them. My last question is still about the civil service, and I want to thank all of our veterans for all the incredible service that they do for this country and the sacrifice that they make. I'm curious to explore with this civil service, the list, and how someone who is a veteran, not from the city of Boston, from outside of the city, compares and competes on the list when we're talking about a Boston resident who either is a veteran or who isn't a veteran. So if you understand that breakdown, if you could compare it so people have a full understanding of how it works.
Well, so that would definitely, a full understanding would definitely, we have to extend the meeting a little
Yes,
bit.
yes,
But
okay.
I'll try to
give us a 2-minute truncated. Yeah.
For military service, if I serve and I listed from the state of Massachusetts and now I'm separating from the military and I'm applying to BFD, I have 90 days from separation to become a resident of the city of Boston. I can take that civil service test as an active duty military applicant, and then whether I'm from Worcester, Marlborough, anywhere, I have 90 days from separation in order to have that residency preference for the city of Boston. If I'm coming out as a disabled veteran, I have preference on that list above even veterans. So if I score a 90 as a disabled veteran and a veteran scores 99, I would still be ranked higher than that particular applicant. Non-veterans would be below disabled veterans, and other kind of preferences that are in civil service statute. But it can be difficult if I'm a non-veteran from the city of Boston. If you look at an eligible list right now, we make a call for the list for, say, a class 50, 100 people plus any ties. 100% of those will be disabled veterans. And so if you look at that just from a diversity standpoint, if 1 in 10 military candidates are people of color, 1 in 26 plus could be women, our applicant pool is going to reflect that. And so it can be difficult for us to look at a diverse applicant pool if we continue to rely on the civil service selection process. We will do better at working with recruiters, Army, military recruiters, and providing other types of events and activities to discuss those challenges. Again, where you just mentioned the lack of representation in public safety for Asian Americans. On Thursday, we're hosting an event.
That was there was lack of representation for a lot of different groups, but
this is the
as
month.
An example.
This is the month where we're
Yeah.
recognizing a lot of that. So we're actually hosting a discussion with Mass State Police, Boston Police, and one of our own to talk about the disparities in the Asian American Pacific Islander communities, to really talk about some of those obstacles. So Superintendent Chin from BPD, Captain Anthony Deere and from Mass State Police, and May Ho as a veteran firefighter will be talking about that within the community. All are welcome, but it's going to be at the Boston Public Library on Thursday at 5:30.
Thank you, Michael, and thanks to the panel. I know my question is sort of centered, but I want to thank everyone on the panel. And also Randy, who is always here as a faithful here on our city council meetings. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Councilor Jen. Councilor Murphy, you have the floor.
Sure, thank you. Just 2 follow-ups. One is on the cadet, but also wanted to talk about the special units. We talked earlier about the cut to maybe $500,000 to personnel, and we know that that's a domino effect often that we then can't promote if we're not getting, from behind. And shout out also the Marine unit fleet, which like yesterday, the dive team, many people don't even realize that our Boston Fire have a dive team, right? So thank you for that. Also, your volunteer food truck, I often think how you show up, all first responders, but especially firefighters, and probably people's worst day, their house is on fire, that then maybe become homeless, car accidents, just loss of life. So just thinking ahead about the special units, and is that going to affect, and I know we said we'd talk more about it when we kind of look into those numbers and what that might mean. But on the cadet, you mentioned that the police have an 85% retention, but earlier when I asked, you said it was a third. So if we have 32 students, that's about 10.5, so 11 cadets would probably be able to move on to the academy. So what?
Well, so if you're saying within the 2 years, so 2 years,
So you're
and you have
taking
the preference.
because it's a 2-year for the academy, that it would be 64, a third of 64, not a, yeah.
Okay, so there's two kind of separate questions there. Okay, so the cadet program, you can work for 2 years and have preference. We can keep them longer. So if I'm 18, I can technically work until I'm 28. So the 85% retention for a BPD is reflected in I'm hired as a cadet and then eventually become a police officer. So that's an 85% retention as it relates to cadets being hired and then going into an academy. For our program, if we look at 2025, and let's say we have 32 cadets that would have retention at that particular time, a third of them, close to a third of them, would be eligible for appointment, as long as we kept it consistent with the numbers that we'd be asking for. If we got a grant and maybe, again, we had 90 that we had in 2022, we had a grant for 90, we would have close to 30 cadets ready to go. So all of those things we'll be looking to try to be parallel to our recruitment and hiring and practices.
Right, and I appreciate that, it's the first year, so we don't have past data, but what is the date we plan on bringing in the second group of cadets, and will previous applicants have preference in interviews if they made it almost all the way but just didn't get picked? Then there was really no reason that would make them not be eligible. If they apply again, will they have preference for interview? And what time do you think? What month in 2024 will we be bringing in the second cadet class?
Yeah, I would say at this point we could either look at splitting up the 32 that we plan to hire for a fall and a spring class, but we're going to continue to evaluate the program, and also we have to think about the deployment of the resources in terms of what they'll be doing. All things being equal, if we said this time next year is a time frame that we would look to hire 32. And I would personally invite anyone that applied last time and didn't get on to actually apply again. I want to shy away from the word preference. If they were a finalist, they would certainly be a strong candidate for the next time. And again, they would personally be encouraged to, I would personally reach out to them and encourage them to apply again.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I wanted to, I didn't realize how much my council colleagues had the same similar questions as mine, but I did want to go back to Council Baker's point. I agree that it should not be, preferred by nepotism or that family members of electeds or any of that. But I do have some questions about the process in terms of the cadet program, because I'm very interested. Last year when we met, we talked a lot about diversity. And so I'm really interested in how successful we're being. I think it's almost like I'm kind of being known for the racial equity counselor. So most of my focus is going to be about how do we support people that are historically disenfranchised. And so in terms of the discrepancy in the department and outside of the cadet program, what else is being done? And also the question about, in terms of preference, the same could be said, right? So let's say that an elected official or someone in the department did not tell you that they have a family member applying. They don't want any favors. The cadet, the candidate is a great candidate. The same could be said that someone in the cadet program could retaliate if they don't like the elected official. So I think that we have to be very careful in terms of making sure that we're very transparent about the process, because we do get a lot of answers, and our job here is to not only be transparent, but also to make sure that there's fairness across the board. So it would seem that the cadet program purposes is to increase diversity, but the ending number felt like it wasn't very diverse. Can you speak to that, and can you explain to me how many people applied, their demographics, how many people actually was approved and their demographics, and do you feel, as someone who is striving to build diversity in the department, do you feel that the cadet program is successful, and how could we make it better?
Absolutely. So thank you for the question, Madam Chair. One, we are very excited at the outcome of the applicant pool. We don't have the data on the number of applicants in terms of their demographics. We don't, on our side, through ISOMs, we can't see race, gender, or anything of that nature. We can only see once we've started to interview the candidates. Close to 70% of the candidates right now represent underrepresented communities, especially as it relates to gender. Again, I mentioned 28% of the cadets are women. And so we feel we have a good start.
20%?
28%. So 9 women in the current cadet class. Of the overall population, again, 30% or close to 40% are white American, but a third of those are women. So again, if we looked at underrepresented communities within our department.
Can you give me that in numbers? Sorry.
Certainly.
So how many people did you interview?
How many did we interview, or how many applied?
How many did apply?
We had about 167 apply. We conducted about 114 interviews. The end result of that, again, was for 32 slots. We have 9% are Black or African American female. 3%, or really 1, is American Indian, Alaska Native, Indigenous. We had 6 Hispanic or Latinx at the end, which represents 19% of the total population. 1 person identified as Middle East male, and then again, 15 of the total numbers for the cadet program were white American, but a third of those were white American female, representing 16%.
15 makes up what? 15 total of the interviewees?
I'm referring to the actual cadets. So we can provide you the total number of folks that were interviewed. We do have that data. I don't have it with me today. But for the most part, our cadet finalists represent pretty consistent with the number of candidates that we had. So it's pretty consistent with the number of people that applied. End result were the best candidates that we felt applied to the position.
Okay. Thank you. And of those 114, how many actually went through the program? You interviewed 114.
We had approximately 80 that made it through to the fitness evaluation. And then we had approximately 52 or so ended up as finalists.
Did you approved, or 52 finalists?
52 finalists.
How many did you approve?
32.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay, I see. No wonder the numbers are like so small.
Yeah, so they start to go down as, again, each candidate provides an application and is vetted through our investigators as well, and they're observed throughout. So if we have an orientation and they're supposed to be on time for an orientation and they're late for an orientation, that has an impact ultimately in the candidate's final selection, as well as any other observations. So even at a fitness evaluation, we're not only looking at their being physically fit. We're looking at how they're interacting with each other as cohorts and whether or not they're encouraging one another. And so those observations are also viewed and
So
considered.
teammanship and all that.
Absolutely, so every step of the way.
And then, sorry, how many of the finalists were military? The
We had
52?
two of the 50 plus were military candidates.
And how many of them, of the 52, spoke more than one language? Of the Cape Verdean Creole or Spanish or Haitian Creole?
There's a good portion. We have about a third, maybe even 40% of our candidates speak more than one language, including American Sign Language.
Can you submit in writing your process for vetting, the ranking process?
It's much like any city
The
agency in terms of
BPD
ranking.
thing?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this, but the BPD process that you mentioned, the BPD program, you mentioned 85 retention out of that process. Could you submit the ranking process in writing?
You're referring to a ranking process. I think what we looked at is a retention. The question was out of how many cadets.
Yeah, how
that
do you score
became
points
cadets?
and then say, this is it? Can you submit that process in writing? The process that you use that you said, same as BPD.
What we referred to, same as BPD, was our process to become a cadet and then be appointed to a cadet class. You don't necessarily rank cadets as they're going
Okay.
through. There are some tiebreakers or some things that might happen in a performance.
Yeah.
BPD, they didn't really have a shortage of cadets that would be eligible to go into a cadet class based on, or to an academy class based on the number of recruits. So if you had upwards of 125, you could appoint, up to a third. You had 30 plus cadets that could be ready. And
Yeah.
so there was never an opportunity for there to be tiebreakers for BPD. We're anticipating tiebreakers for fire, and we'll look at that through our physical evaluations and their performance throughout.
What's the highest score they can score on a civil exam?
On a civil service exam?
Yeah.
I believe it's 100 or a 99, but again, you don't have to take the civil service exam in order to be a cadet. You have to take the civil service exam at some point during your tenure in order to be appointed to an academy class, and all you have to do is pass that.
Oh, I
So
see.
cadets are civilian employees.
Yeah.
They're hired by the city of Boston, and then at some point within their tenure, they're expected to pass the civil service exam. Their score doesn't necessarily determine whether or not they would be appointed. It's just a pass.
So that's not part of the
fail.
process?
It's not part of the cadet process, no ma'am, in
Are
terms
you-
of their hiring.
So the 32 approved, maybe they didn't take the test.
That's correct.
Got it.
And so their civil service score isn't taken into account on becoming a cadet. What's taken into account is the interview, the fitness evaluation, and the observation of cadets throughout the process.
Personality, teammanship, all of that.
Yes.
Okay. Could I get that process in writing,
Yes, ma'am.
please? I think I'll pause for my colleagues and come back to more budget questions. I appreciate your work in increasing diversity. I think sorry, before I go back to you guys, the second part of my question was, what else is being done outside of the cadet program? It just feels like we're chasing the carrot, and it's just a small number in comparison, and then 85% of 32 is still low per year to increase diversity. So
No.
do you suggest any other programs?
Well, so again, I think you might be misconstruing the numbers in terms of what the question was as it relates to the retention of cadets going into and becoming police officers and the impact that it has, and what the potential this program has. Again, if we looked at 3 years down the road, if we retained 80% or even 85% of just the women that applied, that's a significant impact in an academy class in 2025. So again, not to suggest that we're only going to have the 85% retention, but cadets make around $30,000 a year. So sometimes that retention has to do with,
30,000, no.
yeah, sometimes that retention might have to do with them getting another job or another opportunity. So there are a lot of other factors there, and I'm happy to sit down and talk to you about that.
30,000 is low.
30,000 is very low, right? But these are cadet programs. The Mass State Police pays their cadets $40,000 a year. So again, these are competitive opportunities, in that there's nothing closer to a guarantee that you can get to be a fire cadet and then be appointed to an academy. So the numbers.
So it's like an internship.
You can call it a paid internship, but again, it's a great opportunity if you have the opportunity to come through. I will say, in terms of what the
No,
department
but I don't
is
think I
doing-
got it confused. I think we talked about how many applied, how many interviewed, how many finalists, how many approved. From that, not every cadet goes into the academy. So that's not enough.
It's a start. It's a start based on what we have at our disposal, so it is a start. I would say, again, if you said we're going to have a 64 by this time next year, so now we have 64 applicants. The majority of those applicants will probably be Boston City kids, or majority of them are going to be Boston City kids, and
Yeah.
it'll be reflective of the city that we serve. So we have the potential to impact by a third each year thereafter. Doesn't necessarily have to be 2 years. The third year, the fourth year, the fifth year, every year we have the ability to now impact an academy class.
I understand.
Okay, so outside of that, we're definitely doing outreach. My position was created in 2017.
Yeah.
Of course, I was at BPD at the time, but having a dedicated member of your staff doing outreach, recruitment, that's where you can see some of the impact.
I definitely did outreach. I went through every civic association. I spread out the application. I had a whole bunch of people apply.
Yep. So our partnership with the city councilor, with our partnership with our community partners are going to be instrumental in continuing to drive and continuing to push our
I think
agenda.
Chantel, you sent me the application, and then I ended up, I spread it. I put it on my social media.
Absolutely. Well, if you're referring to the cadet program,
Yes.
I personally sent the application to each
She told me
city
that.
councilor. So
Yeah, you did.
yeah, and when we're doing events like the AAPI information session,
But
you
hold
are
on,
partners
you
in
guys,
this. So
You guys spent like $25 million in overtime. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, how many firefighters do you think you need a year? And if you're only getting about 20-something a year from this cadet program, doesn't sound like it's enough to offset. You know what I mean?
it's a third of the class, so it's a pretty good number in terms of, again, if the council would like to have more of a conversation and see what the council might have the ability to do as it relates to the obstacles for us in our selection process for civil service, I think that would be a good conversation to have, but based on the parameters.
I think we want you to work overtime and just do another cadet program.
Unfortunately, I am exempt from overtime. I'm a salaried employee.
Oh, okay.
But I will entertain any increase in my salary. With that said, again, we're doing our best.
Is this a conversation? Is this a time? Yeah.
But we're doing our best within the parameters. And again, with my experience with BPD, the cadet program.
Council Baker, does he deserve a raise? Should we give him a raise? Just.
I'll take a motion from the floor.
I'm not sure what he's making.
Yeah. I'll take any motion from the floor.
Seems like he's doing a good job.
But again, so it's incremental
Yeah.
in terms of progress.
Yeah.
And again, I'm happy to sit down with you and talk to you about the progress that we made with BPD and the cadet program. When you're saying it's just 20, it's a third, And so again, if the council says, hey, your next budget, we're going to give you 90 based on your retirement.
If you give us 90, all 30 of them will
so
be in the
now
class.
we have the ability to have even more of an impact. And again, 99, and it's consistent with the numbers of people that might be retiring as well. We had some large classes happening in the 90s, so we're anticipating a lot of people becoming eligible to retirement as well as mandatory retirement. And so we will need more numbers. We will need more support and resources. The cadet program is just one strategy that we have.
When's the next class?
We just made a call for the list, so we'll have another class this fall. Again, we were granted language certifications for that, so we can increase our abilities for second languages.
He's talking about a
based
drill
on
class,
that.
not a cadet class.
Oh, if the next cadet class will be hopefully this time next year.
Oh, okay, next year.
Yeah,
Well,
with
maybe
32.
sooner, maybe sooner. We were talking about a September date to start the process. So Michael would like to do half, and I'm fighting him on it. I want to do a whole class. So, but he doesn't.
So
Not fighting him, but
We're not fighting.
what do we do with 64
all at the same
children?
time.
You know?
But
And all those clerical workers that are only making $40,000 a year are all lined up to grab these cadets to help them in the building because there's such a shortage of civilians. So Michael does have plans to give them out throughout the
timing
building.
of the cadet class really has a lot to do with the applicant pool and those that might be ready to graduate in high school or college. We had several candidates that were in college, and they would technically have to give up their college.
What's your salary
citizenship.
range?
My salary range for
What do you get paid?
personally about $110,000 a year.
Yeah, I'd say you deserve a raise.
I made sure he got a step raise this year.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Councilor Chen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you again to the panel. I guess I'm going to dovetail off of the question, because I was have my budget, but Kier was looking at the line item for the cadet class, and I did the math, and I was like, oh, there's no way that that's the salary that our cadets are making. But and I think the math is somewhat off for whatever reason. When I do the math, it's about 22,000, and you're saying it's 30, so there's a math issue. It might not. I don't want to make a big deal of that. I'm just saying that it's not too far off from the 22,000 that I'm somehow calculating.
Is it full-time, Councilor Chen?
I guess that's a question for.
Our cadets work 35 hours a week, so it's full-time, and they're paid around $31,000 a year.
Is that before or after? Actually, I mean, is that before?
I can
That's
just tell
their
you what
salary.
on the job description in terms of what
Okay.
we have is $31,279 or something like that.
And so and the age requirement again was it 18 to 25?
18 to 25.
Okay. I always worry about this from like, how are we teaching or showing our young kids that this is an investment? Because that's not a lot of money. And sometimes, especially for folks who come from underrepresented, historically excluded groups where like they need money to like help with their family, they have to pay bills, they need to pay rent, they have to pay for school. I just worry about that amount being a barrier that creates another equity issue. Does that make sense? And if so, like, what have you seen in practice?
Well, again, just using BPD's example, it's not a lot of money. The majority of the candidates are going to be living at home or living with roommates. It's hopefully a 2 to 3 year process where you then go into an academy class where you're making triple what you would be making as a cadet. So it's a sacrifice.
Yes.
I would say if you were looking at budget and increasing in our shop right now, they're not in a collective bargaining, so we can increase.
You want us to unionize your cadets? We'll do that. No, just kidding.
But that potentially
See, I'm here.
their salaries could be increased, but each position is going to be reviewed through NAC and things of that nature. So all of those processes that lie within the city government, we'd have to adhere to. But based on the comparison, they're making a little bit more than actually BPD.
Okay,
But,
and I understand that. What I'm asking, I think, is a little bit more, it has to be from sort of your own experience in the recruitment process and in talking to applicants and potential applicants, whether you see, before I'm like, oh, let's crank this all the way up. I do believe that, people should be paid just wages, especially in the city where it's the second most expensive city to rent, and I understand that most people are living at home. Before I say like crank it up, what has been your experience in talking to young people? Has that been an impediment? Have you seen an equity issue there? I understand that it's a sacrifice and that's an investment. Talking to an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old, sometimes they may not understand that trade-off. And I want to know, I'm not on the ground, you know, I did blast it out, shared it with everybody, but I want to know if you're seeing that low, what we interpret as a low salary, right? Maybe it's, you know, for some 18-year-olds it's okay, but I'm saying for other 18-year-olds I know who have family responsibility, it's not. And have you seen that present itself as a barrier, as an equity issue, even for entry into the cadet program, which is meant to make sure that we're diversifying the force? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say any job can be a barrier.
Right, like I could go to Target, right, and make more money. We see that in the youth with the YE programs, right? Like they're getting paid 15, they go to Target, make 17, 18, and even though the YE is a learn and earn, maybe they get a better lifelong outcome from that. They can make more money right now in Target, so at Target. So thinking about what that trade-off is, and if our young folks are internalizing that.
Yeah, I would be happy to work with the Department of Youth Engagement on a study on that. In terms of, you know, our ability to recruit, we've seen people from a, you know, socioeconomic standpoint, wherever they are, to choose this opportunity. They have an opportunity to also have a second job, which many do, and go to school. I was one of those candidates that came all the way from the West Coast here, working full-time and went to school full-time. And so those sacrifices, a microcosm of your life, this versus this, and really trying to give them that information and resources. But in terms of people making decisions, it's a tough decision to make. It is a sacrifice. It's a full-time job that you have to do for a minimum of 2 years. After that 2 years, by the way, you can go and do whatever else you want to do and petition the commissioner to appoint you to a class, so you don't have to stay as a cadet after the 2 years. It is a 2-year sacrifice, but there's a co-curricular program in that. Every cadet that comes through our program is also going to be EMT certified. So let's say after the 2 years they decide, I'm not ready to be a firefighter, I want to go be an EMT or EMS, that you can do that, and you can be making closer to $60,000, and then maybe come over and again continue to work toward ultimately becoming a firefighter.
Awesome, incredible. I have one other line of question that relates to a question that Councilor Baker was asking in terms of our ability to do work internally rather than contracting out. When I look at the line item for maintenance tech for a carpenter, for a painter, plumber, another plumber, it looks like it's mostly like 1, 2 for plumbers. Is that an area where if there's to be personnel increase, it would be in those line items to get, because I'm assuming is this like 1 carpenter for the entire department, 2 plumbers?
We don't have a carpenter at this point. There was never allocated a carpenter. We have 1 plumber that we could use, probably 5 of them, because...
This is 2, that there, as is budgeted for 2.
Yeah, there's only 1 plumber at the current time. The plumbers have to contract a lot of work out, which is a little, it's expensive. I think that's wrong. I think we could use a lot of in-house. I would love to see a heating person in-house that could fix these furnaces, because we have to sub every furnace repair out, and it's very common in the winter to have these old buildings with the furnaces malfunctioning.
And my apologies if I missed your answer to Councilor Baker. If he asked this question, what is the impediment to us being able to hire more folks in-house?
It's just a budgeted and a compensation department.
They could be making more money as an independent plumber elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at it this way, I believe that the city requires everybody that builds a building in the city to get a union wage. Am I correct in that? So why wouldn't they give the plumber and the carpenter a union wage that works for the city? I think that's a fair trade-off. You know, so it's getting the positions filled, getting them budgeted. That would be a good thing for all of us. I think that stop giving these contractors all that money to keep it in-house. I just want to say one other thing about diversity. We have a program called the Community Enrichment Program. I don't know if you're aware of it. It's a basketball league that is run with the, you're aware of it? It's pretty cool. The counselors are all, the coaches are all firefighters, and they interact with the community, and they advocate the the players to be firefighters, and they set a role model that really, I think Chief Marshall is one of them, right? Yeah, he plays the old man's game, but they like to beat him when he plays, so. Yeah, that's another outlet that we access to the community to prove that, because a lot of kids don't know about the fire department. They don't have the interaction with the fire department. If they don't have an emergency in the house, they don't know who we are. They know who the police are, but they don't know who we are, so they're not looking
Or
it
they
up.
can't see themselves as like, this is a possibility for
Yes,
me. Right.
yeah. And so to come in contact with more kids in the neighborhood is very important. That's why I advocate the firehouses have their doors open all summer, so people can come and go. There's a restroom on the main floor. They can talk to firefighters. It's a big deal to just reach out to the community, and I've said before, it's a safe haven in every community. We've had somebody stabbed recently. I think somebody was shot, and they ran to the firehouse right around the corner. So it's a great part of the community. We're open to everybody, and we just need to keep the community outreach going so everybody knows that it's a great profession and it's honorable. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. I agree with you on that, and I also agree with you on union wages for those who are working, doing the work in-house, right? Because how else are we going to compete if we're not offering competitive wages? You can sustain a family, you can live in the city of Boston, or you can retire, work and retire with dignity. So whatever we can do to support that, I'd love us to on the council. Thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilor Lujan, did you say you was going to file for the
We can have conversations to determine what is best. Thank you,
Thank you,
Councilor.
Councilor Lujan. Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When was Car 5 disbanded?
I think it was 2009, if I'm correct, yeah.
2000, so did we lose 6 at that same point? Was
No,
it Car
we
6
lost-
over in West Rock, or was it 10 in
10,
West Rock?
10,
10 in West
yeah,
Rock. Did we
both of them
lose
were.
that at the same time?
Yeah. It's very hard to pick a district to close because they're all pretty busy. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know who picked Car 5. Wouldn't have been my first choice, but
And this one, you'd need to have like a lot of hazmat experience, and that with is it over by the hospital,
Yes.
Huntington Ave, you said?
yes, the schools, the hospitals.
And what would the impact be on the diversity of command staff with the new, with Car 5 happening?
It depends.
Have we done any analysis on that?
No, it depends on the promotional list. I haven't looked at it recently.
Yeah.
The list that just expired, there was a good amount of diversity on the current list for chiefs. It was pretty good that we promoted.
And that changes up, though? Would those same people be in line for?
Sure, they could go there. Yeah, it would be a seniority-based bidding process to get to that building.
Yeah, so it might not change that much. If we did the analysis, say, a year ago, and we knew there was going to be a good bump in diversity and command staff, like, that probably shouldn't change drastically, correct?
Again, I'd have to look at the
No
list
way to
and
say,
see who's
okay.
on the list, because it's so fluid. It keeps on, people keep on, the list expires every 2 years. But we hired some diverse candidates for district chief. I'm sure they'd be interested in going over there.
Yeah.
It's a great fire district for everybody. You get a lot of experience.
Did you guys get the department get any opera money, and if so, like, where did it go? That you know of?
Did we get that, chief? What's it called?
Opera money, like the federal money, so the American Rescue?
No, I don't think we did on that one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got the SAFER grant that helped us hire the 90 firefighters. That's expired. So that covers the expense of those firefighters for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
That's how we got 90 in a class last year.
And where are you guys in contract negotiations with both civilian and the uniform people?
Uniform, I think we're in a positive place. We're moving along. The union president's back here. He might have a different opinion, but I think we're in a great place. I hope he agrees with me. Yeah,
And that their contract is expired, 7/18 we're talking about now?
yes, that is expired. Yes.
For how long?
2 years.
2 years, okay. And what about the other unions that we had talked about, your civilian?
Yeah, I've seen her and asked me. As far as I know, they
They're all
have
done, yeah,
contracts.
because they're in the city
Yes,
unions.
they're citywide.
Yeah, and not to beat a dead horse on those, like to do it right, to take care of your buildings and everything, you would need 4 plumbers, 4 carpenters, 4.
Yeah, I don't
And
think it's
pay them
a,
at least 100, 125 anyway.
yeah, but I don't think it's a big expense when you look at the contracts for the heating contract alone.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah, yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah.
It's obscene what we're paying for heat, to fix a boiler, that they come in and flip a switch and go, yeah, you're all set, yeah, $700, you know?
Yeah, if you're lucky, it's 700.
Yeah, as
well-
opposed to sending the guy out that's working every day, and he goes and flips a switch, and it doesn't cost us anything, because he's on the payroll.
Yeah.
know,
So to put it in perspective, back to the print department, our budget was $1 million a year. We probably printed $3 million a year. We never charged anybody for it. And now you wouldn't even be able to, even though a lot of it is just copied, you wouldn't even be able to get a price on how much we're doing, and it's probably 10 million.
Yeah, I thought that was a terrible thing when that closed. I remember going to the building before it closed, and I go, you gotta be kidding me. And it's probably you I talked to that was so upset. They'd been there so long, and they just said, you're done.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the police horses. You're done, no more horses.
Oh, yeah.
Those
That
were terrible.
happened the same year.
Yeah,
the police
terrible,
horses.
terrible examples of government not working, in my opinion, my personal opinion, not
Yeah.
my position.
Okay.
So, that being said, now we have to go to a union printer, correct? Because everything has to be union, so that's even more expensive. We're in-house.
Nothing in here is printed union. There's some fake labels running around and stuff.
Oh, there is,
Yeah,
so it's
the
not
whole- the
even,
whole
so that
industry-
didn't even pan out, that whole thing?
No,
Yeah.
no, you couldn't find a printer in the city of Boston, never mind a union printer.
Mm-hmm.
So like, we basically took whatever money we were spending or potentially any savings and sending it right out of the city.
Yeah, and it wasn't a big staff, it was a building that was paid for.
Yeah, it was built-
The equipment was there, right at the turnpike, right at the tunnel there. I
The
know.
building was built by the proceeds of the department from just charging. James Michael Curley.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council Baker. I just wanted to review your capital for FY24. The clicker won't work, so I was trying to get it there. So in the presentation that I gave you, everything blue on page 31 is FY24 in millions. And so when you go down the list, and this doesn't necessarily mean that you got enough in the budget, but just wanted to assess or update you that engine 37 on Huntington Ave is on the capital for Harrison Ave, car 5. No, car 5 is the one that's not, but engine 3, South End, 3 million, and engine 18, Dorchester, Ashmont, also 3 million. We just got to follow the dollars and make sure it happens.
That's just consultant fees to do studies and everything, that's not any
$3
construction.
million?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, there's no groundbreaking, there's no
I
contract, yeah. They'll do
I
a
was stunned
study.
that 3 million could get you a whole fire station.
No, we're talking 25 million. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Well, and then, so no need to go through this budget. I just wanted to update that and, but 17 though, it looks like.
That says in construction, which it is, and then you have a $30 million price tag. That's moving along pretty good.
That's
We
pretty
broke
good.
ground, I would say, in February of this year for that. So again, this,
Where's 17?
it's Meeting House Hill, Parish Street, right up. in
Oh, well, they do a
Dorchester.
lot of, all that community stuff.
They're good.
Yeah.
It's a good firehouse.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that they're getting a new building. The building was pretty bad that they were in.
And apparently your radio systems are all messed up and
Yeah.
46 million in capital.
The 46 million, I believe Chief Calabrese had a meeting on that yesterday. I don't know if that's a budget expense or there's some grant money involved in that. Is there some grant money, Chief?
Yeah, I believe that was from a grant that they're currently working on. It was a 4-year grant to upgrade all the satellite systems within the city. I think there's like 46 of them or something. And also to build a new tower, 100-foot, 40-foot tower, I believe in Brighton is the plan for that. So that's moving along.
Okay,
So
sounds good. And then the repairs for HVAC repairs,
Yeah, that's low to me. That seems very low.
that's very low.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's very low.
That's like 2 firehouses out of 33.
That's maybe for a house.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that's some, yeah, I don't get that one. I don't know who came up with that figure.
Don't get me started. So, okay. And then in terms of, obviously, there needs to be some sort of like structural changes in terms of increasing capacity. What's happened outside of the cadet program? Or do you have a new class already going in? And
It's
when?
being, yeah, they're looking, civil service gives us a list, and we're starting to look into interviewing the people and putting a number on everybody to pick them. So they're giving us 45, 15 are gonna be foreign language, so there'll be 30 that are not foreign language and 15 people. We ask civil service for 15 language certifications. So there'd be different languages that we picked, the representative of the community. So that was generous of them. They're usually a little tighter with the language certs, but they're pretty generous this time.
Oh, okay. And will the demographics reflect the population, Boston's population?
Of that 15, yes, I believe they will. The rest of them are disabled vets, like Michael said. So it goes by.
I mean, no,
We don't know. I'm sure there'll be people of color that are disabled vets. We don't know until we get the list.
Based on the numbers of people that are coming back, you know, that are enlisted, again, I'd be, you know, pressed to say, you know, we're probably going to be reflective of those that are enlisted in service as far as coming back as disabled veterans. So, again, it's not as though the department just says, you know, we know we're better with more applicants from different walks of life and, again, reflective of the city, but we're bound by civil service in terms of our selection process. So
Yeah.
We'll continue to work with recruiters and continue to work with those that are coming back to the city and try to make sure that they know that this is an inclusive environment and a great career. But, you know, right now, we're definitely bound by the applicant pool that's provided by our eligible list. However, again, by increasing our language skills within the department, sometimes that can be can correlate to some of the diversity of a candidate, especially as it relates to Cape Verdean Creole, Vietnamese, Cantonese, Haitian Creole. So those languages that we were granted, we know that we'll have at least 15 that could be representative of people outside of, or that would include underrepresented communities.
and they don't have to be disabled vets?
They do not.
Oh, I see.
However, if we were granted Spanish as well, so if I'm, you know, disabled veteran and I'm fluent in Spanish as well, I would be ranked higher than a non-veteran as well. So again, those numbers and things kind of come together. Our hope is to, again, just be able to work with civil service on granting us language certification so we can increase our capacity to serve the public in that aspect in terms of different languages. And we'll continue to work through civil service eligibility and recruitment efforts with those that are returning from service to come with the department.
Okay, thank you. What is the process for budget? Is it, Commissioner, is it yourself and the mayor, or is it like the chief of departments? Or how are you included in input in the budget?
Okay, well, we're at a little disadvantage here because our finance lady left on us in April. So I would go over the budget with her the previous year and see what I'd want to add to it, what ongoing projects we have or new projects that I would like to start. And then she would allocate the funds and put it in the proposed budget request. It could be capital, could be operating. And then we come to you and then see what happens, you know.
Thank you. In the capital plan, I saw across the board, like a lot of neighborhoods, but then there was 0 plans for Roxbury. Is there any need to repair anything in Roxbury?
I tell you, the 2 firehouses, actually the 3 that come to mind are in pretty good shape. Dudley is in good shape. It's one of those ones that were built in the 70s, so it's not that bad, and it was renovated, I'd say 2 years ago, maybe 3. Grove Hall was renovated around the same time. They're in good shape. Columbia Road
I keep up on that one. That's a good one. They're pretty good shape. That firehouse was designed, believe it or not, Mayor Curley in the 20s, so it's been around a long time. He went to New Mexico, took a trip, and he liked the Spanish architecture, so he came back and had them build a firehouse. Looks like a Spanish home with the stucco and everything, and it's pretty good. It's solid. You know, it's been renovated, I'd say 2 to 3 years ago. So Roxbury's doing pretty good. Dorchester, another story. We're getting a brand new firehouse, but again, Engine 18's in Dorchester. It's in tough shape. That would be my number one pick for a new firehouse.
I guess it does look overall like you're not actually getting true investments, because everything across the board is sort of like, you know, 3 million, 4 million, 8 million. In terms of per neighborhood, I'm looking at per neighborhood breakdown. And so if obviously if that's just, you know, in preparation and that was in last year and we're still in that same process, I guess I wonder how long it would actually take to get to where you need to be. But in terms of capital, I mean, obviously, you know, that's up to the mayor's discretion, and we can advocate. I think the process is that the mayor needs 8 votes, well, 8 now, 2/3 of the council to vote for the capital budget. And then if we disagree, if she doesn't get the 8 votes, it's because there's at least 5 of us saying there needs to be some adjustment. So hopefully a conversation to advocate for you to get. I really do appreciate what the fire department does for all of us. No one has any complaints about the fire department. You save lives, and you work extremely hard. Of course, looking into that overtime budget and looking at numbers and capacity to offset, my feedback, obviously, it's just to increase diversity and keeping a lens, diverse, you know, equitable lens in terms of hiring process. Even if there is a rank, obviously you'll get a pool of people, but I'm quite sure that there'll be disabled veterans that are Black and brown and other backgrounds as well. If we are diversifying and if we're reflective of the demographics in our city, then, and we're taking care of everyone, what affects you affects me, so it all makes sense to balance out our society. In terms of your pay for your, so you call it civilian personnel?
Oh, yeah.
That I'm very interested in.
I don't think it's exclusive to our department. I think all city departments
All
are
city
probably
departments.
they're in the same unions, the 2 unions, so I'm sure if you brought them in, you'd get an earful.
Speaking of unions, we have a couple of people signed up for public testimony. First, Sam Dillon will go to our public testimony. As far as, you know, just wrapping up the conversation about pay, I'm with you. I don't think that people should get paid. I think it's disrespectful. I think if you care about me, you respect me. If you respect me, you pay me, because that means I take care of my family and I have dignity and I can go to work and feel proud to serve my city and, you know, work for the city. So it's just one of those basic human rights, right? Respect me because I do my job and I deserve to take care of my family. So I'm very interested in that, and I'll definitely be looking into that, whether through the amendment. We'll be looking carefully through the Capitol to talk to the mayor and see what we can do there. But we can obviously move funds in the amendment process as well.
Excellent. Thank you for everything today. It was a great session.
Yes, it was very clear. It didn't feel confusing. I appreciate your transparency, bearing with us with all these questions.
Yeah, thank you.
If you can turn your attention to Mr. Sam Dillon, please state your name and introduce yourself, affiliation, and give your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sam Dillon, President of Boston Firefighters Local 718, representing the Boston Fire Department. Thank you for the opportunity to testify and speak before this hearing this morning. Thank you, Commissioner and command staff. Very prepared coming in here this morning and advocating. When you advocate for the fire department, you're advocating for the members of 718. So I thank you for that. I would like to just briefly kind of underscore points made by Commissioner Burke. As 718, the union shares many of his priorities. Obviously, Madam Chair, you and I have had conversations about Car 5 beginning last year. That is definitely something that 718 is in support of and is in support of our commissioner in advocating for. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the council, in particular Council President Flynn, Councilor Large Flaherty, and Councilor Murphy. This firehouse in the Seaport has certainly been a long time coming. It's been a necessary topic of conversation, and to see that really getting off the ground, courtesy of their advocacy and their cooperation with their colleagues, that's going to be great to finally have. As the city expands, as this city grows and changes, so does the demands and responsibility on the fire department and all public service. Anything that changes in the city, it changes our mission, and it changes how we have to respond to keep this city safe, its residents, its guests, its infrastructure. So being a part of this hearing today, hearing some of the conversations that took place, seeing the advocacy on behalf of our command staff and the city council body as a whole, this is very encouraging and this is very necessary. I'm very fortunate to represent people who are the greatest fire department in the country, bar none. We're very proud of what we do. I'm very proud of our membership. And in order to continue to be the best and in order to continue to accomplish our mission, we need the city council. We need City Hall. We need these bodies of government that we do serve and that we do protect to give us the tools and the financing that we need to continue to go out there every day and do what we do, which is to serve the best city out there. I appreciate your time. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Madam Chair, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have John. John, don't make me fight with you today.
No,
Okay?
we're not
2
going to, we're going
minutes.
to go out to lunch.
All right, 4 minutes max.
No, that's okay.
I like your stories.
I'll do you 2
But
minutes.
yesterday you was upset with me.
I was what?
You was upset with me. Were you upset with me?
From South Boston. My history is, my family history is full of firefighters, police officers, school teachers, everything that relates to this city. I want to thank you gentlemen for being here and thank Mr. President from Local 17. I only wish the gallery was full of firefighters so they could express some of their views as to what reality is in the city, and they are my heroes. I just have to tell you that. I'm not going to get into too much other than if the mayor is listening or mayor's assistants are listening, please get together with these people. They're all decent people. We have to get a 2-year without a contract is unheard of. It shouldn't be that way. These people, my family members especially, and a couple of them ended up in New York City when 9/11 happened, volunteering, and my hero of all heroes, my brother-in-law, Bobby Linnell, is suffering right now from what happened when he was there volunteering. These people volunteer for everything that you can dream of, whether it's with the schools, whether, I know they were saying about the doors being open in the fire department. I grew up in South Boston. My mother would be at the novena up at the Gate of Heaven Church, and I'd be out there playing, and I fell down and ripped open my hand. From first place I walked into was the fire department. They took care of me. They took me to the hospital. They got, they're just unbelievable people. And I hate to sit here and Madam Chair, I really thank you for letting me, go on with it. But between the cadets, which I hope is, matter of fact, one of the Linnell families are trying to get into that. I think she got accepted into the cadet program, and I hope it works out for her. It's in her blood. It's in her blood. She graduated from college. She's living home right now, and this is one of her ways of getting into society.
Who is this?
Her name is Alexis. I don't want any extra, you know what I mean, little checks off that
You said she's your niece? Sorry, who?
Her name is Alexis. I want to say she's Alexis Linnell. And
Congratulations. Congratulations.
thank you. I was just talking to one of the aides that her brother didn't get on that first group, but what I say to them all, and I say to you, is never take no for an answer, appeal, go for the second round, whenever it is, and they're just good people that are trying to contribute to the city. I'll let it go at that. I could go on and on with all my heroes, whether it's my nephew who I pinned years ago as a chief, Provenzano, Joseph Provenzano, retired Provenzanos, the whole bit. And my heart goes out to all you guys, and I give you whatever support I can wherever we can. Thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me go on. And again, there's one name I just wanted to mention, if you don't mind, but only because my name is Provenzano, I see a name here that says Calabrese. Hello. Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet you. Yeah, thank you. I'm a little biased with that. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for giving me the time.
Thank
I
you.
only wish there was a lot like yesterday. I understand the meeting for this afternoon is canceled, and for
Is
the
The redistricting is canceled?
the redistricting,
Is it?
I think that's the word I got.
The budget is canceled.
That's why I was here for these gentlemen and for. What's
The
that?
budget was canceled to make room for redistricting.
So is there a 2:00 meeting?
I think there's still, that's canceled too, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay,
I stayed for it yesterday, and it cost me another $33 over at the parking garage. So I got to take the bus from now on. You guys are killing me. All right, thank you. I'm sorry did I take the whole 5?
you did,
I did?
yes.
Good. I'll see you. Thank you.
Grazie, signore. All right, thank you so much. I think if you can send me some information through email, you don't have to write it down. We will email it to you officially. If I could actually get the demographics for BFD, if we're talking about equity and pay and all that stuff, I think it's important for me to look at all of these numbers. Women cadets, blacks and Hispanics, Asian, all of that priority that you were talking about in terms of minority hiring. So your total number of your actual firefighters, and then of course broken down by demographics, and then broken down by rank. And then recruiting plan to increase diversity, we already talked about that. And then of course looking at ways of funding that class, because honestly, even my interns don't make that low. That's pretty bad. But we can have more conversations about it. I welcome anyone to meet with me or have conversations, further the conversation, so we can look at the amendment process. We can invite you back into our working session so that it's an open conversation, so you can give input in terms of don't do that, don't touch that money, and maybe over here or whatever it is. No one is probably, well, I shouldn't speak too soon, but I don't think anyone is looking to make decreases, but rather how we can look at if there is any room for improvements, then that's the conversation that we're thinking about. At least that seems to be sort of the consensus for now. But I, again, thank you, and reach out if you have any questions, and look forward to further conversation. This hearing is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have any closing remarks? Can I close?
No, just thank you for this. This was a great hearing. It was very civil. Everything was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hearing adjourned.